Huntington supports this Leadership Legacy series, and our forum today is also supported by the Columbus Dispatch. Please join me in thanking them. Okay, introducing the speakers is not a difficult task because I think most of us know him. Information about the speaker is in your forum flyer, so I'll provide only a brief introduction. Our guest is founder and CEO of Pizzuti Companies, a commercial real estate and development company with offices in Chicago, Orlando, and of course Columbus. He founded this company after working at two other Columbus homegrown companies, Lazarus and The Limited. He is, to say the least, an avid art collector and will soon be sharing his collection with the public at the Pizzuti Collection, which opens to the public at the second weekend in September. Please welcome Ron Pizzuti. Joining Ron today is a journalist who has probably written for every section of the Columbus Dispatch, from the arts to sports to business. Please welcome Tim Farron. Tim, it's all yours.
Thank you. I'd like to start today by telling a little story, and then we'll get into questioning Ron. Some years back, I was going to the gallery hop. I parked the car by Goodale Park, and I'm walking with a group of friends, and I happen to pass this kind of distinguished-looking building. It wasn't in use. It was gray, stone, concrete, something like that. And I remember saying to the people with me, that looks like an embassy or something really cool, and wouldn't it be great if instead of tearing it down and turning it into a parking lot, I don't know, maybe some visionary developer took it over and turned it into something really great. And yes, from your laughter, you understand that that was the old Travelers Insurance Building, which is now the Pizzuti Collection, and the visionary developer is sitting right next to me. So there are, yes, absolutely. So I was curious as to how a visionary developer became an art collector and how those two things meshed in this one concrete form. And so that's what we're going to find out today. Ron, of course, is not originally from Columbus. He grew up in Kent, Ohio, the son of a factory worker. You're descended from folks who were in Calabria, Italy, the toe of the boot. Then you went to Kent State. There are some Kent State people here. Why did you come, after getting your degree in business, from Kent to Columbus rather than to Cleveland, say?
I came to work for F&R Lazarus. I had actually originally accepted a job at Goodyear Tire and Rubber, which made me draft exempt because the Vietnam War was going on, and they were going to pay my way through graduate school, and I never reported to work. And I knew I wasn't going to like the job, and I said, to hell with it, I'll take my chances, and I'm getting drafted. So I came here, and my college professor, Paul Pfeiffer, arranged for an interview at Lazarus, and came down, worked, I think Bob Lazarus and Mary are in the room, but I was paid probably almost a little more than half of what Goodyear was going to pay me.
And your father was not pleased about that.
My father thought I'd lost it, you know. I had this great job, and I'll tell you, it was the best job I ever had. Working for the Lazarus family and working there was one of the highlights of my life.
Did you learn something, or was it just great fun? Or?
Oh no, we worked hard. In fact, a story I didn't tell you, but my dad finally came around to thinking that I made a good move, and so a bunch of my friends from Kent State surprised me and came down to Columbus, and he told them I was the head of stock in yard goods, and he thought I was selling lawnmowers, but we were selling fabric and anyway, so told him what a big shot his son was, and all my buddies came down. And they found me in the stock room, and the only time I ever wear a pair of jeans to work, I was sweeping the floor in a white T-shirt and jeans.
Of course. So the benefits of working for Lazarus included meeting someone who I would argue is probably the best decision you ever made.
Well, the best decision I ever made was marrying my wife.
Exactly. And
yeah.
she was working there, yes?
Yeah, she was working there. We have, there are 5 of us who ran around together. All 5 of us married women who worked at Lazarus, and Pete Grimes died a few years ago, but we're all married to our original wives. And our first, well, whatever it is, whatever the correct term is.
You don't introduce Anne as this is my first wife.
I've done that before, yes. Yeah. And she will say, and last. You know,
and so while you were at Lazarus, you
while I was at Lazarus, I had a roommate who hated his job.
Yes.
And he was in an Army Reserve unit with Les Wexner. And so Les used to come to our apartment every Monday night, and they'd go to reserve meetings, and then he and I would go out and drink beer at the apartment lounge on Old Otangi River Road.
You and Les.
Yeah, it was, Strohs and Black Label were 25 cents, and PBRs, Schlitz, and Bud were 30 cents then. So.
Now we know what to get Les Wexner.
Oh, absolutely.
So then at what point did Les entice you to leave that great job at Lazarus?
Well, my roommate left and became a car dealer in Delray Beach, Florida, and subsequently Les moved into the apartment, and so we became roommates. And you know, it was history now, but we eventually, I stayed at Lazarus. I loved the job. It had no intention of, my goal was to be, you know,
Retire there, huh?
well, is to have Bob Lazarus' job. And I didn't, you know, I didn't want to. But no, anyway, yeah, I ended up going to the Limited several years later, and it was a very good move. It was great fun, and it was both of them were terrific learning experiences.
So at what point then did you decide to strike out on your own, and why not go into retail as did Les?
Honestly, I was close to burnout. It was time to do something else. And my dad was a factory worker who played in real estate on the side, and was upset when my brother and I didn't join his, you know, well, it wasn't really a business. He bought large houses on the campus at Kent State and converted them to student housing. And we did everything. We painted, we plastered, we did all the work after school, and that wasn't fun. So, but I still had a real estate bug in my system. So that's how it happened.
Very good. And so what did you apply from what you learned at Limited and Lazarus to the new gig?
Well, Lazarus folks will tell you the customer's always right. And I think, I don't know if Macy's is following that pattern or not today, but it was the standards that were set by the Lazarus family and by Federated in general were very, very high. And it was a great learning experience, and the Limited, I was able to take some of the things I learned there to the Limited, and fortunately Les is a man of quality, and is, you know, probably he's probably the most visionary human being I've ever known, and so I learned a lot at both places, and I think I've taken some of the things I learned there into our current business.
And of course, Les figures in a story that's become kind of local legend about you, how you were introduced into the art world in Paris.
In Paris. Was my first or second trip to Europe. Anyway, it was an early trip to Europe, and I'd never been out of the state of Ohio until my buyer at Lazarus became ill, and she faked an illness, actually. Bob doesn't know this to this day. But and I got to go to New York and fly on a real airplane for the first time. I was 23 years old. So going to Europe was a big deal. And we were in Paris, and we went to a gallery in Montmartre, and I saw a Frank Stella painting, and had no idea who Frank Stella was, and I didn't even know what a painting was at the time, but it just stuck with me. It was really, really beautiful. But it was $10,000, and I couldn't, you know, I grew up in a household that had, all Catholics had the Last Supper over the dining room table, or the kitchen table, and then plus a Utrillo print and a Grant Wood. It was in a plastic frame. That's all I remember, and it was a still life.
And you didn't take any art appreciation courses
No,
at
no,
Kent
no, no,
State
no,
either.
no. I don't know if they offered them then. But anyway, it stuck with me. So my next trip to New York, I went to the New York Public Library and looked him up. And long story short, we have become friends. We're an avid collector of his work. But at the time, that was just out of the question. And so after that, there was a gallery at 1492 East Broad, which is now the entrance to Ohio State University Hospital East. But it was a Pace Gallery, and the woman who ran the gallery was the mother of Arnie Glimsher, who at the time, and I think to this day, still one of the finest galleries in the world. But he loved his mother, and everything that was shown in New York came to Columbus, Ohio. And this poor gal had a hell of a time selling anything, you know. So anyway, I walked in there one day and found a print that we liked, and we still have it. In fact, those of you who are going to our building tomorrow will see it's hanging in a prominent place on the third floor. Was in my office for years, was in our home for years, has been in our son Joel's office for many years as well. And bought it.
On time.
On time, $100 down and $100 a month. And we were permitted to buy something else once we got it 50% paid. So.
Permitted.
Permitted, yes. Oh, she was a piece of work.
So that first purchase, how did that feel? I mean, did you look at that thing every day and
Well, you have to understand, I was making about $90 a week, and
Yeah.
to spend $900 on it. It was $1,000, and I got a 10% discount. So that was a lot of money back then, and it felt great. And it hung in a very prominent spot in the house, and it was the only piece of art we owned. And then I just got the bug and started. We took the kids down, before football games on Saturday, and she was I told a story. She remembered my name and couldn't remember Ann's. And she called one afternoon and said, and by the way, the reason I'm telling this story is that every great artist that showed in New York at Arnie's gallery came here. Andy Warhol, Louise Nevelson, Jim Dine, just people that were just, household names today. Even then they were household names. So one day we got a call at home, and she said, "Would you and the wife," that's Ann, "like to have dinner with Andy Warhol tonight?" And I looked, and Ann says, "What am I going to say to Andy Warhol?" And so
like
I said,
your hair?
So I said, "Sorry, we can't make it tonight." Well, this is 4:30 in the afternoon for a 7 o'clock dinner at the Kahiki.
So you passed up dinner at the Kahiki with Andy Warhol. It's all your fault. So then, as the years have been going on, your business was growing and your collection was growing.
Yeah, the collection started to grow. And initially, we did business only with Pace Gallery, and then we found out there was another world out there, and it was tough in the beginning because we would, you walk into a gallery in New York and from Columbus, Ohio, and they send somebody from the back room out to greet you, and those days are gone today. Today we have a little more clout than that.
Was there anything that you were learning at your business that you wound up applying to your art collecting?
Well, I think the principles are the same. We work very hard and putting the collection together of maintaining high standards, and if we get interested in an artist, we'll be patient enough to wait until the right piece comes along. And I think those same principles apply to our business. We spend a lot of time, in fact, the finance crew is sitting here on this front table, a lot of time pursuing the right lender, who's the right lender today is the sponsor of this event. But by the way, that deserves a round of applause. But we think we apply the same principles to the business that we do to collecting art, and concentrate on quality, and we hire good people. We're very thorough in the way we recruit folks, and just as thorough in the way we, buy a painting or a sculpture or a photograph.
People in the museum and visual arts business talk about people who have the collecting gene. And you seem to have that, but you also seem to have something else, a very good eye. I mean, you spoke of Stella that you had seen in Paris, and Sherry Gelden is here. She's, of course, Wexner Center executive director, and she said to me the other day, Ron was aware of Frank Stella before he was Frank Stella. Then at Macy June's at the Columbus Museum of Art told me that Paul Cézanne famously said that Monet is only an eye, but my God, what an eye, and Ron has always had what an eye. So you've combined those two things, that collecting gene and a really great eye, but also you mentioned after Paris, you immediately went and started doing research. And you've continued to do that with all of your artists, I believe, yes? What was that all about? I mean,
I think the process is still pretty much the same.
Yeah.
We see an artist that we like or see work that we like and start a project of research. Once in a while we'll miss the boat. Once in a while their prices go so high that we ended up passing them. Like we don't own Picasso because he was just price out of our realm. But now we still do the same thing. There's a young artist in Minneapolis that I like very much. His name is Alex Soth, and pretty unknown in the world until a couple years ago, 4 years ago, and he was given the opportunity to show at the Whitney Museum in New York in the Whitney Biennial, and all of a sudden, if that hadn't happened, he'd still be an anonymous artist. He happens to be a photographer in Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. And one of the unfortunate things about the whole art world is that folks who don't live in New York or London and to some degree LA and Chicago and now Beijing, they don't get discovered. And this guy lives in Minneapolis, and he has been discovered, and he'll have a great career. So we bought him early, and we bought him in depth, and I like collecting in depth. Like we latch on to some, like we own a lot of Frank Stella today, and there's some artists out there that we can no longer afford, but, that we knew when they were not, they weren't well known, or they, we have one in particular who I think we paid something like $700 for the first piece, and the Walker Museum just bought a piece of his for $1.8 million. So
that's a good return on investment.
Yeah, it is, if you sell it.
Well,
it doesn't do any good when it's on paper.
So going through your collection the other day, I was making the observation that, there's great aesthetic eye work. There's a lot of intellectual rigor behind not only your selection, but the painters themselves, what they're doing. But there's also something else at work there. And I had wondered, there seems to be a lot of really exquisite craftsmanship in many, many of the works there. And I wondered if that had come from your appreciation of tremendous craftsmanship as a developer.
Well, I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Those who have rented space from us know that we're not the lowest price warehouse or the lowest price office space on the block, but probably I'd be probably the best. We do a good job of we pay a lot of attention to aesthetics, and we pay a lot of attention to screening subcontractors, and so the same principles apply. And I'll wait for years. Sometime I waited for years for a painting from an artist that I liked, and finally the dealer 2 years later came back and said, "You have pick of the litter because you were so patient," and we ended up buying a great painting. And about 3 or 4 years later, a major publisher who has one of the biggest collections in the world offered to trade us for a much larger piece that was inferior to ours. Of course we didn't do it because his was worth more money to him. But so we spend a lot of time, both arenas. We spend a lot of time on aesthetics in our buildings. We spend a tremendous amount of time in quality. Mm-hmm. Our warehouses have a floor system that's unbeatable and a roof system that's unbeatable. So lots of similarity.
So the business had been going along great. The art collecting had been going along great. There's loads and loads of stuff that was not only in your house, in your offices, but you had squirreled away in warehouses, I believe. And so at what point did you decide that, as I did, that you saw that building and said, that's perfect for the collection?
We actually, when I saw the building, we thought it was perfect for our new hotel. and it didn't work because of ADA requirements. And if you've been, those of you who've been in the building, there's a landing up front, and the way the floors are laid out and configured, there's no way that we could meet all the requirements that the building department imposes, and it just didn't work. So it subsequently became the focus for the gallery, and now it'll be attached to a parking garage that the Short North desperately needs, and an office building, 65,000 feet, with retail on the ground floor, and then across the street, on the east side of the street, is the new hotel, the new Joseph Hotel. So.
And you chose, as your director of the collection, somebody who's got a long history with you too. Was that why you chose Rebecca?
We could have done a worldwide search and probably not done better than Rebecca. We've known her a long time. Our oldest daughter, Dara, and Rebecca are good friends. She is well respected in this community. She had she had 2 galleries for 18 years, operated 2 galleries for 18 years.
Including one in Miranova, which is...
Yes, we were her landlord as well. And she's not only well respected here, she's well respected in the art market. You know, and we've gone, she and I have traveled, you know, to Europe and to South America and to Cuba and lots of places, and everywhere we go, so somebody knows Rebecca, and somebody always has a nice word. But she gets it. She's just a perfect fit for us, and she's very, very savvy, and artists like her, the dealers like her, and I like her. So.
And she knows you very well. I was asking her. We were going through.
Did you see her?
I saw her about a week or 2 ago, and we went through the collection. And we're looking at some of the stuff. When you go, there's an entire floor of Cuban and Cuban-American artists' work, and it's just fantastic. And I said to Rebecca, so did you give any advice at all to Ron about that? And her eyes got really big, and she said, I don't need to give Ron any advice. You know your mind, and she knows that you know your mind. And that brings me back to something about educating yourself and creating a whole body of knowledge that you have about these artists. At a certain point, I know that some of your early stuff is just, it looks like the kind of greatest hits of contemporary art. But then you got a lot more confident and started looking at just emerging people and young people, and I mean, it's pretty extraordinary. Is that just a kick for you, getting to know these guys?
Oh yeah, it's a kick, and get some help from the redhead at the front table here. I've been on the Wexner Center Foundation board for years and have been exposed to some of the finest artists in the world, and it's so some of this knowledge you pick up subliminally, and some of it you pick up intentionally by just picking their brains when they get here. And we're lucky in this city because both the museum and the Wexner Center bring big names to the city, and we're usually able to meet the artists and spend time with them, and that's very important to me. Over the years, we've attempted to meet. I have not met Alex Soth yet, the photographer that I like so much. And I'm going to, one of these days, we'll make a trip to Minneapolis and make that happen. But we were, Gerhard Richter came, and we spent, almost 2 full days with him. And not only visual artists, Isabella Rossellini's coming in August, and I was fortunate enough to spend an evening with her a couple years, 3 or 4 years ago, actually. She's coming back. We drank Italian wine all night and talked about Blue Velvet.
So the collection is not only going to be a museum, but will provide education, There's a library there for research, and like many great collections, more than 2/3 of what you have isn't up. So you're going to be able to mount many shows in constant rotation for how many years?
I don't know. Depends on how long we continue collecting.
And you're not done collecting.
No, we'll never be done. It's. I don't know. Someone asked Ann, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, do you think it's 10% of, what percentage of the collection is here? She said, well, I think maybe it's 10%. And she came home that night, she says, is that accurate? I said, no, it's less than that. So the collection has grown, and it's very, it started out being basically American and European art in that order. And today it's Cuban and Chinese and Indian, and got a couple of pieces from Singapore and Turkey, and so we've, where we find opportunity, we pursue it. So
it's tremendous. There's been a lot of kind of murmurings around town. People are sort of wondering, is this collection, this building, is this Ron's legacy to Columbus? And I think there's a different answer that you'll give to what is your real legacy.
Well, 1/3 of my legacy is sitting in the room right in front of me. And the other 2/3 are square. We have 3 children. That's the legacy. All the buildings in the world and all the pictures in the world don't create a legacy. But we got 3 great kids, and all of whom are accomplished, they're all balanced, and they're all fun to be around still as adults. So. This one, not all the time, but no, I see Joel more than I see Ann these days. We work side by side, so which is really good. It's I think most parents dream about that, and I'm a very lucky guy that it's worked.
Absolutely.
And we have friends who try to do the same thing, and it doesn't always click, but it has with us. So.
Well, so as we all know, life isn't about the destination, it's about the journey. Where's the journey going to continue now with the business, the collection, you and the family?
Which one do you want? Well, there'll be no more kids.
Well,
So.
Ann seems relieved.
Well, I'll tell you, the business, Joel is taking over the business, and it's going to be up to him.
Did you know this?
That's a question.
Okay.
Well, we'll put it this way: he's the future of the business, and there's no reason it won't continue to be. It'll be managed differently. That always happens. But our business has not been good for God, almost 5 years, and today we are swamped. In fact, he had to get permission to come over here today. So.
He talked to the boss.
No, it's so the business is good today, and we're doing things that we thought we would never do. We swore we would never be in the hotel business, and we opened the first hotel at Kent State University 2 weeks ago, and the downtown Kent will never be the same. I grew up there, and it's the area around the campus is full of tattoo parlors and CD bars. And today it has a very classy hotel that we built, and a conference center that's attached to the university, and a brand new downtown with 90,000 square feet of office space. The two biggest employers in the city occupy the office space, and some fun shops and some great restaurants, including a really cool Lebanese restaurant. So.
Tremendous.
So, and we're busy. We're busy everywhere. We're busy in Florida with apartments. We're busy in Chicago, and we're busy here with lots of things. We have 3 public projects today. We just awarded. Am I allowed to talk about the library?
Yes, it was announced. It was announced yesterday.
Oh, it was announced.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to be we're working with Pat Lazinski and the library, and we'll be working on 11 or 12 branches We did the courthouse for Franklin County, and we're now in the Hall of Justice, retooling that and removing lots of asbestos and making it a first-class building. And we're also doing a project with the city that what will become 111 North Front. It's now 19 North Front. And that building will be torn down, and a new municipal building will be built in its place.
Tremendous. I'm going to go through a final lightning round of questions here. And while I do, it is the CMC's tradition to take audience questions as well. So I encourage you to get up to the microphones, and when I'm finished with these, introduce yourself. Don't make a long editorial comment, because this is being videotaped and will be on the Ohio channel and on YouTube, and with a link on the CMC's website, so, you know, ask appropriately. So anyway, let me go through these quick questions.
Am I allowed to pass?
Yes, I guess that's permitted, but since you were at the dentist earlier this morning, you're drugged up, so I think we're going to be aware that you won't be able to lie. You've had truth serum. So in your collection, who is your favorite artist?
Depends on when you ask me.
On your mood, or the
No, not on the
day,
mood.
or
Not
who
just
you're
on-
working with most recently?
on what we're seeing, and you know, I get bored easily, and I have a couple favorite artists. Frank Stella's one of them, and Jim Hodges is. If you pin me down, probably would be the two of them. We have big positions with both of them, and but it depends on what's going on in the world today.
Do you have a favorite work in the collection?
Actually, it's a portrait of my three kids.
Ah.
It's a photograph.
Ah.
Our three kids. Got to be careful.
Well. And which artist have you most enjoyed dealing with?
Oh, that's hard to answer. I don't have an answer to that, because we've had so many really wonderful experiences that it's hard to pin down one particular one.
So going past the visual, what sound or noise do you love?
Today, I love the screeches of my new grandchild.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, who's going to be 6 months old the 29th of this month. So.
Being Italian partly myself, I'm curious about this. Do you have a favorite Italian curse word?
I give you a gesture.
And I think we all know what that is. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Would I like to attempt, or would I like to have attempted?
Either way.
I am not a jock, and I would love to have been the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys when Roger Staubach was there. Other than that, I'm very happy doing what I'm doing, and been happy with everything I've done. I had a great retail career, and I've got a pretty exciting business career as well. So I'm comfortable.
Very good. And finally, here's a familiar question for those of you who watched Actors Studio. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
He told me he was going to ask that.
And he said, I'm going to have to think about this.
I think
So you
I would want him to say, welcome, your friends and family have been waiting for you.
Very good. Excellent. So,
We done?
not yet.
Okay.
We have questions from the audience that we're going to entertain. So introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Rutledge from the law firm of Bricker and Eckler. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your contributions. I was especially interested in your observations about Joel and your success in working with him. Not every father and son are successful in working together in business, and I wondered if you could elaborate on your comments a little bit and talk about some of the secrets of your success in working with your son in your business.
I see Ann smiling.
Well, I'll preface it by saying that Joel's very smart, He's bright. He's intellectually and Joel's street smart too, and he just recently started to admit that he may have some of my genes, but he's smiling. I trust his judgment. You know, there comes a time in your life when your parents dictate what you're to do, and then they suggest what you're supposed to do, and then you pass that on to your own children. And now I'm taking advice from him. So, and it's pleasant. Our relationship is really good. Give him, today this whole Short North project, he's managing it, and he's doing almost everything. And I still, he will tell you differently, but he is running the project. He and Bill Brennan, who's sitting 2 seats away from him, with our lawyer in the middle, by the way. But he's pretty free reins, and I trust his judgment, trust what he does, and the decisions he makes. He has a good sense to still come to me when he doesn't, he can't figure out exactly what to do, and he gives me the respect of rendering my own opinion.
But did you have to change your attitude as you?
I'll never change my attitude.
Thank you.
As Rebecca said, Ron knows. Jim.
Hi, Ron. Jim Coe from WCBE Public Radio. This has been quite enjoyable. I'm a fan of large-scale public art. And a little over a year ago, we had a sculptor sitting where you're sitting now, giving us a great presentation of a proposal for to me, a marvelous sculpture that was going to sit adjacent to the Miranova building down on the Scioto Mile.
Columbiad, I think it was.
Yeah, I'm still disappointed that we don't have Todd Slaughter's Blue Serpent gracing the Broad Street Bridge, but that was another era. Can you give us an update on how that sculpture is progressing?
Well, I wish I could, because it's still alive, and I think it's going to happen. The problem with it is that it's going to take $2 million to build it. And our family put up the seed money for the original drawings, and today we need $300,000. Maybe we should pass the basket today, but we need $300,000 to get the working drawings completed. And we're not getting any help from I got to be careful how I say this, as it's going to be broadcast, but we're not getting the kind of help we thought we would get from some of the governmental bodies. And so as soon as we get the seed money that it takes, we know we're going to get some good corporate support down the road. One of the problems that the Scioto Mile has is that I think it was something like $43 million put into the project, and AEP put up $10 million, and the city put up 10, and a lot of other corporate folks put up the balance. They've been tapped out, and to go back to these same people and say, well, you put up another X number of dollars to make this happen, there's some reluctance. So, and it just, I don't know what else to say. I think it's still going to happen. The new design it evolved partially because of the comments that came from the public, and it's now a very, very green piece of work. That's going to be, it'll be, oh God, I don't know. It's instead of lined with glass, it's going to be lined with plant material. And
Still the same shape?
Still the same shape. And the artist, by the way, if you ever go to New York, go to the Irish Hunger Memorial in Battery Park. This guy's an international artist. We did not focus on local art for this project because we thought it's time the city grows up and the time the city reaches out to the larger community. And we interviewed, I think we screened almost 40 artists, and he was far and away the strongest of the bunch. So I don't know if that answers your question. I wish I had a better answer, but it's I think it's still going to happen.
Kathy.
Kathy Fox. Ron, I first met you just about 20 years ago, and
We were both
you
9,
were
right?
had just been appointed
Children.
to what was then the Arts Facilities Commission, and it was one of the most interesting first meetings I've ever had with someone. You asked me a series of very tough questions, and I must have answered at least some of them right, because by the end of the meeting, we had established a rapport. I came away with the sense, though, that you have a method to how you evaluate how you're going to work with people, and I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit.
Well, yeah. When in recruiting people for our business, we check references very carefully. We also employ a psychologist to do a personality assessment, and that can tell us a lot about the person. We care most about their integrity level, their honesty, and their intellect. We don't go into other personal habits. So we spend a lot of time, and it's been the system has been very accurate. Only once did it backfire, and the gal called me at home that night. She says, "Ron, please don't hire this guy." And she told me why, and we'd already moved him from a city in Florida, and he'd already bought a home in Columbus, and he lasted, I think, 47 days, and we paid his way back to Naples, you know. But no, we spend. We're very thorough, and we don't bat 1,000, but you know, I don't think there's a person on our payroll that we wouldn't rehire. Dr. Blackwell.
Roger Blackwell. Columbus has had some pretty significant artists come out of our city, Roy Lichtenstein and Chris Reese and maybe Anthony Gelpany. Could you identify, or have you any current local artists here in Columbus that have significant recognition and maybe investment potential for the future?
Well, I don't ever address investment potential, because I don't think anyone should collect art for profit. And we've never done it. And it's not to say that we have not profited, because we have, because we've selected, you know, done a good job of selecting work. But I think the one artist that stands out in the city is Ann Hamilton. And she is not easy to collect because of the type of work she makes. But she's an enormously talented woman. And, you know, and Nanette is in the room, and the museum owns her work. And she just had a terrific show in New York at the 67th Street Armory on Park Avenue, and 67th. That was a major installation. Not marketable. Nobody could ever buy it. You know, I don't know if anybody would want to buy it, but it was exciting to see, and she had great reviews. And so she's a very, very accomplished woman. And there are others. Interesting. You're going to shut me up, I know, but 3 or 4 years ago, I was the judge for the Ohio Arts Council annual exhibition, and we don't own much Ohio art, almost none, and somewhat by design, because we don't really, you know, other than Rebecca's gallery, I didn't really patronize many galleries here, and even though there are some other fine ones. And I was blown away with the quality of the work that was submitted for, it was a competition, and there were over 300 entries. And anyway, bottom line is that we ended up screening them down to 48 pieces, and then there were cash prizes given to the artists. And I couldn't decide who to give the first place or the second place, and ended up that both pieces were done by the same artist, because they were all submitted anonymously. And that night at the awards presentation, we made a commitment to put only Ohio artists in the hotel rooms in the New Joseph Hotel. And we did that because of the quality that was generated and has been generated, and the quality of the work that comes out of cities like ours, or cities like Lithopolis or Berea, Ohio. It's just artists from all over the state. One from Kent, in fact, is going to be in the hotel. And it's unfortunate that these folks don't get discovered, because they don't show in New York or London or LA, and now Beijing is the biggest art. More art is sold in Beijing than any city in the world today. So it's a convoluted answer, but I've become a patron of local art because of it.
Jane, you wanted to say something?
Thank you. I have two questions, and since I'm the only one at the microphone, the first question is advice for any of us who would like to begin collecting art. What do you look for? What price points? How do you discover young artists?
Three things. A, buy what you like. B, don't buy for profit. And C, be patient. And don't decide. I had a friend ask me the other day, what can I buy for $2,000? And I said, wait until you have $5,000, because I knew what he liked, and what he wanted is you can't afford to buy what you like, but just, you know, don't buy, just wait until you can afford to do it. So just buy what you can afford, what you like, and don't do it for profit.
Great.
And a ground floor thing is buying studies.
Oh, yeah, if we started over today, I would buy drawings and studies. And I like, when I get to know artists, I have the most respect for those who can draw, which is becoming a lost art. And I love drawings. So.
Very good.
And they're also, you know, they're smaller and they take up less space.
Any other question?
And I love this series because our Leadership Legacy series is just my favorite CMC series. And the question I love to ask is, in each of our lives, there's a moment in time that's like a snapshot that you realize that maybe it's a defining moment, and you maybe only make a degree or two change, but 20 years or 30 years down the road, you realize that that was a defining moment.
Was it that day in Paris, maybe?
No, I think it's the day I met Ann.
Oh, She's crying.
Well, I'll tell you, I was 28 when we got married, and my parents had given up on me, and they didn't have much money, but when my brother, who was 3 years younger and got married at age 21, when he got married, they gave him a cash gift. And my 27th Christmas, I got the same amount of money because they had determined that it was never going to happen.
Well, it's clearly a good defining moment. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Jane.
Rich, you have a few words.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you. Well, I, like Jane, really enjoy these legacy series, and I think the continuing legacy that Joel and the girls and Ann and you are leaving the city.
6 grandchildren now.
And 6 grandchildren, and actually the nation in artworks of all kinds, architecture, certainly the collection, which is such a big benefit for the city of Columbus. That's just so wonderful. I just want to personally thank you, and I know everybody in the room enjoyed this presentation.